Hello, good morning, everyone. This is Playbook's Daily Briefing, and this is Playbook's managing editor and author, Jack Blanchard. It is Tuesday, April the 22nd, and I am here once again with Politico's White House Bureau Chief, Dasha Burns, to talk about everything driving the day. Hello, Dasha. We're recording a bit later than usual. Were you out late last night?
You know, it's White House Correspondents' Dinner Week. There's some stuff going on every night this week.
On the top of the newsletter this morning, driving the day, it's the economy, stupid. IMF World Economic Forecast is dropping at 9 a.m. this morning, and it is going to be bad news for the White House. We saw all through the day Monday, the stock market struggling again, the bond market doing all sorts of crazy things again, and Donald Trump doing his little best to drive that process onward by tweeting erratically about the Fed chief Jerome Powell. So the economy is definitely going to be the center of attention this morning, and we'll be talking about that in a minute, Dasha. But I also want to talk about the other big story that is dominating discourse in DC this week, which is the future of Pete Hegseth, the Defense Secretary. He's on being wheeled out on Fox and Friends this morning to make a case for his defense after the stories that broke over the weekend about him in Politico and in the New York Times as well, about a second Signal chat group and about huge disruption and unrest in his department. So let's talk about that as well. And the other big story, of course, is that we learned on Monday night that Harvard University is going to be suing the Trump administration over the decision to suspend its funds, and that and other court cases will continue to dominate the day and the week. Let's just start with Hexath, though, Dasha, because I know you've been doing more reporting on this through this week. Just tell us what the latest is on him.
Yeah, I mean, it's an extraordinary story and one that's so representative of the challenges and the defiance of this White House, right? Look, the president has been through his own share of his allies and some of his employees leaking things to the media. So the overall bad headlines, that's not fazing President Trump. He's spoken with Hexath in private. He's publicly voiced his support. That is the same message that he echoed privately to Hexath. However, there are allies that are still saying that doesn't mean that he is out of the woods. While the headlines may not be the problem, the Signal chats may not be the problem, there have been personnel issues within the Pentagon. This is a serious military national security concern for the United States, and it's a distraction from the Trump administration's agenda. And this is someone who, you know, has consistently shown some challenges with management. Now, there are a number of things that could happen here. Most of the sources that I've spoken with say it's not likely the Hexath is actually out. Trump is not going to be pressured by media headlines. There's also the confirmation issue, right? They do not want to go through another confirmation battle after they expended so much capital on confirming Hexath in the first place. There's also not a clear replacement for him. And the third thing that they could do is not necessarily fire him, but potentially marginalize him, potentially just ice him out of some of the critical meetings, the critical conversations. It's not clear exactly what's going to happen from here. Right now, Trump, again, is publicly and privately voicing his support, but as not just the headlines, but the actual managerial problems inside of the Pentagon start to really come to the surface. Because again, the White House is saying that Caroline Leavitt today came out saying, this is what happens when the entire Pentagon and the deep state is against you. The people that were fired were actually Hexath's guys. And that's what one of the sources told me today. That's the problem, is these were people that weren't thrust upon Hexath. They were people he brought in. And so that does signal some problems for how he is managing this very important department.
Right, and you have to suspect that he'll be fine for now. But if this keeps happening, Dasha, if we keep getting big negative Pete Hegseth stories that dominate another news cycle, then another news story, there may come a point, I guess, at some stage where the White House decides, that this just isn't worth it, because they want to be spending this week talking about immigration and illegal migration, just as they did last week. And instead, so far, they've spent the week having to defend their defense secretary again. And I guess there's got to be a limit to how many times they want to do that, because it's just opportunity lost for them, right?
However, one source told me the best thing that happened for Hexath is Pope Francis dying. let's think about the majority of news coverage on Monday. It actually wasn't this. It was Pope Francis. And that does matter because how these news cycles progress tend to have a lot of impact on this White House and on this president.
The other thing that will definitely dominate the discourse today is going to be the economy.
That's right.
The IMF publishing its outlook on the global economy this morning. It's part of the IMF's big week-long conference here in DC. We already know that they're going to say the world economy is in trouble, and it's pretty obvious they're going to say the reason is Donald Trump's tariffs, which have completely upended all of the projections that people had before Donald Trump came to power. It's cost Donald Trump a significant hit in the polls. We saw a poll from Reuters last night, which showed him at his lowest level so far, and it's a big problem for the White House. And it felt to me, Dasha, yesterday like desperate in the White House, as I say, to keep talking about immigration because it's the issue they think, not everyone will agree with it, but they think they're winning on. And there you had Donald Trump sitting at home with his Truth Social feed posting attacks on the chair of the Federal Reserve, which is just a clear and easy way to set the stock market going down again, which is exactly what happened, and felt completely off message as to where they would have wanted him to be.
This is something I've said so many times about President Trump. You tell him not to talk about pink elephants, all he's going to want to talk about is pink elephants. And the Powell issue is one that has been a thorn in his side for a while. And given all of that he's trying to do with the economy, that he, feels he has this vision for, even that if that vision to us seems like chaos and a lack of strategy, he feels that Powell is standing in the way of that. And I had a source recently tell me that this entire situation, yes, it would be crazy for Trump to do something to Powell and to fire him or to take his revenge. However, the entire situation is like a grenade with a pin pulled, and you just don't know exactly where President Trump is going to head with this. Again, the chaos that we reported on at the very beginning of the administration, chaos is the strategy. That is a bad thing for markets, certainly a bad thing for bonds. But the president thinks that it's a very good thing for negotiations. And so while in the short term it may spook folks, he believes that in the longer term, hey, I'm going to get these deals that no one would have gotten otherwise. The thing that they have to do, and this is what both folks inside of the White House, allies of the White House, and people in business are saying, look, Wall Street is not going to wait around forever. They may want to give him a little bit of space to have these negotiations, but they need to show a deal, and they need to show a deal very soon.
Right. It's been 10 days since Trump's trade advisor, Peter Navarro, said it was quite possible to get 90 trade deals done in 90 days. Well, 10 of those days have gone, and so far we have seen 0 trade deals. And as most trade experts know, it takes
tick-tock. Yeah.
Exactly. It takes years to negotiate them. We've got J.D. Vance out in India still today talking to the Indian government about trade, trying to push that along. The other interesting thing happening today, Dasha, it's a slight side issue, but it's very interesting, is that one of the big companies that's been affected by this, of course, all of this turmoil, almost more than any other company, is Tesla, the company owned by Elon Musk, Donald Trump, one of Donald Trump's closest advisors. They've got their Q1 results out on Tuesday afternoon, and that is going to be a pretty tricky moment for Elon Musk as he tries to explain to his investors why the company's lost whatever it is, 40% of its value since he went into the White House. And what kind of a business decision was that he made?
Right. And he's been pretty open about his positions on this, even when they have clashed with some of Trump's top advisors like Peter Navarro. This is a pretty seminal divide within Trump world. The new Trumpers and the old Trumpers, right? Navarro is an old Trumper. Elon is a new Trumper. This is what I've been watching for, and I think we're going to continue to see it play out. The Republican Party under Trump has created this broad coalition, this big tent. Democrats had struggled with that for years. Now the Republican Party and now the Trump administration has these ideological factions, these policy factions, these cultural factions that are not aligned on some of these very core issues, like how do you deal with the economy. And you're seeing this play out in real time, and there's a tug of war, and who wins out here and who wins out here, sometimes topic to topic, moment to moment, has such a broad echo across not just the country, but the world.
One small good bit of good news for the White House. On Monday evening, Donald Trump seemed to have got the message and got on Truth Social and started shouting about various immigration cases for about 2 hours, and I'm sure that will have been something they've asked him to do repeatedly, and he's finally got around to doing that. Caroline Leavitt, you mentioned before, the White House press secretary, she'll be briefing tomorrow afternoon, and I'm sure she'll be very, very keen to be talking about that topic to people like yourself in that briefing room, rather than about the turmoil in the economy and what the IMF says is going to happen.
That's exactly right. The immigration issue. This is what Trump said on the campaign trail, by the way. He kept saying, it's immigration more so than even the economy. That's the reason I'm going to win. It's possible that is the case. And so that's the topic they want to stay on. But a lot of people that I have met on the campaign trail did vote for the president because they thought he was going to be better for their pocketbooks. And if he doesn't deliver in the short term, he needs to message that, say, hold on tight because we're doing something big here. But he needs to deliver in some capacity, or at least make it clear to people what exactly it is that he's trying to do, because this is a big reason why people put their faith in President Trump.
All right. Thank you, Dasha. Various moments we'll be looking out for through the day there. You can find more of this conversation by listening to Playbook's Daily Briefing wherever you get your podcasts. And for more thoughts on this and anything else you need today, read Playbook if you haven't already at politico.com/playbook. I am Jack Blanchard. That was Dasha Burns. Thank you so much for listening.